8 things you should silently eliminate from your life. Miyamoto Musashi. There are thoughts, people, and habits that no longer deserve space in your life. And continuing to carry all of this is holding you back, tiring you, erasing you. Today, I speak to you not as a guru, but as a fellow traveler. I know how much it hurts to sustain a version of yourself that no longer represents you. I know how heavy it is to explain choices, hold on to dead relationships, pretend everything is fine when inside something begs for change. But you've come this far for a reason, because you're ready. This is the time for a silent, deep, liberating cleansing. As Miyamoto Musashi, the warrior who won more than 60 duels without being defeated, wrote, "You must understand that there is more than one way to win. Know the ways of victory, but the first victory is over yourself. And the time has come to empty everything that prevents you from living truthfully. Today, we will eliminate what silently weighs you down." But before we begin, I invite you to leave the following sentence in the comments. Today, I begin to eliminate what prevents me from being who I am. Now, let's begin. Number 1. Eliminate the hesitation that paralyzes your sword. Have you ever wondered how many battles you've lost before they even began? How many times have you stood still, over-calculating, over-planning, waiting for the perfect moment that never arrives? Hesitation is the disease of the modern warrior. It doesn't kill you outright, but it slowly corrodes, stealing your initiative, extinguishing your fire, turning possibilities into regrets. Musashi wrote in the Book of Five Rings, "In combat, there is no time for hesitation. Thought and action must be one. But you live divided. You think too much, act too little. You plan without executing. You dream without moving. And in this separation between intention and action, your life dissolves into unfulfilled promises." Hesitation stems from fear. Fear of making mistakes. Fear of losing. Fear of being judged. Fear of not being good enough. You wait to have all the answers before taking the first step. Wait to feel courage before acting. Wait for the conditions to be perfect before beginning. But the warrior knows. Courage doesn't come before action. It's born of action. Every time you postpone an important decision, every time you let fear dictate your actions, every time you choose the safety of inertia over the risk of growth, you stray from your path. Life doesn't wait for you to be ready. Opportunities don't knock on your door to ask if it's right now. They appear, demand a response, and move on. Musashi won his first duel at 13, not because he was the strongest, not because he had mastered every technique, but because when the time came, he didn't hesitate. His sword moved as naturally as his breathing. Thought and action were one. This is the mastery you must strive for. Living hesitantly is like fighting with a sword sheathed. You have the instrument, the ability, but you don't use it. You stay there, holding back your potential, protecting yourself from the possibility of failure, but also preventing yourself from winning. And in the end, what hurts more? The honorable defeat of those who tried, or the emptiness of those who never drew their blade? Hesitation creates a vicious cycle. The more you postpone, the more fear grows. The more you think without acting, the more reasons you find not to act. And so the days pass, turning into months, into years, and you remain in the same place, carrying the weight of everything you could have done but didn't. Eliminating hesitation is a daily practice. It starts with small decisions made without delay. A conversation that needs to happen. A project that needs to begin. A habit that needs to change. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a first move. And then another. And another. Until the act of deciding and executing becomes as natural as breathing. Musashi trained his sword every day, even after becoming invincible. Not because he doubted his skill, but because he understood that excellence is a state maintained through constant practice. Likewise, you need to train your ability to act without hesitation. You need to strengthen your resolve. You need to sharpen your initiative. The world belongs to those who move. Not to those who have the best plans, but to those who execute. Not to those who know more, but to those who do. Not to those who expect perfection, but to those who accept the imperfect and still move forward. Because the path is made by walking, and mastery is achieved by doing. So, the next time you find yourself hesitating, remember, The perfect moment is now. The ideal preparation is the one you have. The necessary courage will come when you take the first step. Draw your sword. Don't let the fear of defeat stop you from entering the battle, because the only true defeat is that of those who never tried. Number 2, eliminate wasted movements from your routine. An amateur swordsman makes 10 moves where the master makes 1. Have you ever noticed this in your life? How many actions do you perform every day that lead you nowhere? How many empty gestures? How many useless habits? How many distractions disguised as productivity? You move a lot, but make little progress. You're always busy, but rarely effective. Musashi developed Niten Ichiryu, the two-sword style, eliminating every unnecessary movement. Every cut had purpose. Every step had intention. There were no flourishes, no waste. Just the essence of combat. Just what works. And that's exactly what's missing in his life. Economy of movement, precision of action, clarity of purpose. You wake up and immediately feel lost. You grab your phone and dive into an ocean of irrelevant information. News that doesn't change your life, other people's lives that don't concern you. Comparisons that only diminish you. And before you know it, an hour, 2, has passed, and you still haven't done anything that truly matters. This is the first waste, the waste of attention. Then come the commitments you made because you couldn't say no. Meetings that could have been emails, conversations that lead nowhere. Relationships that have already died but that you insist on keeping alive out of habit. Each of these elements consumes your vital energy, drains your strength, and takes you off track. And worst of all, you know it, but you continue to bear the burden. Musashi wrote, "Do only what is necessary, never more than is necessary." It sounds simple, but it requires brutal clarity about what truly matters. It requires you to look at your routine and ask, does this strengthen me or weaken me? Does this bring me closer to my goal or distract me from it? Is this essential or just noise? Most people never ask these questions. They live on autopilot, repeating inherited patterns, sustaining structures that no longer make sense. They work too hard on things that don't matter and too little on the things that truly matter. And so, life slips away in wasted movements, misdirected energy, and time that never returns. Eliminating the unnecessary isn't about doing less out of laziness. It's about doing less to do better. It's about freeing up mental, emotional, and temporal space for what truly builds. It's about understanding that your energy is limited and that every second you waste on the irrelevant is a second stolen from what's essential. Start by observing your routine like Musashi observed his opponents, with complete attention, with a clinical eye. Where are you leaking energy? What habits consume you without return? What relationships drain you without reciprocity? What activities fill your time but build nothing? And then, with the precision of a swordsman, cut. Eliminate what's useless. Simplify your schedule. Reduce your obligations. Protect your time as if it were your life, because it is. Every hour you reclaim from waste is an hour you can invest in what truly matters. Your development, your health, your true relationships, your work. Musashi, in the final years of his life, retreated to a cave, not out of defeat, but out of wisdom. He eliminated everything unnecessary and focused on the essential, writing the Book of 5 Rings, painting, meditating, and sharing his knowledge. He understood that true mastery lies not in doing many things, but in doing a few things impeccably. You don't need to isolate yourself in a cave, but you do need to create your own sacred space. A time where nothing distracts you. A time where you dedicate yourself solely to what you build. A clean, lean, powerful routine. Because a warrior doesn't win by the number of blows, he wins by the precision of each movement. Number 3, eliminate attachment to past victories and past defeats. There are warriors who die in battles they've already won. They live trapped in past glories, retelling stories of when they were strong, remembering times when they shone. And there are those who live chained to defeats that are over, reliving the humiliation, recreating the pain, reinforcing the belief that they are incapable. Both are trapped in the past. Both have stopped fighting in the present. Musashi won over 60 duels, He could have stopped at any of them and lived off his fame. He could have proclaimed himself invincible and rested on his laurels, but he didn't. Each victory was merely a lesson, each duel a stepping stone. He didn't cling to what he had already achieved because he understood that a true warrior is always beginning, always learning, always evolving. You carry invisible trophies, achievements that no longer define you, but that you use as an identity. I used to be, I used to have, I used to achieve. And while you cling to these memories, you stop building new stories. The glorious past becomes a gilded prison. You don't move forward because you no longer see yourself growing. You see yourself ready, complete, formed, and this illusion slowly kills you. Likewise, there are wounds you won't let heal. Defeats you keep raw. Failures you revisit as if they were still happening. And each time you return to that place, it's as if you're being hit again. The pain renews, the belief in your own inability is reinforced, and you convince yourself you're unworthy of victory. Musashi faced more experienced, stronger, better trained samurai. Did he lose? Yes, he lost training, practice matches, but he never lost a duel to the death, because when he entered a real battle, he didn't carry the weight of past defeats. He entered empty, present, whole. His mind wasn't divided between what was and what could be. He was entirely in the now, in the movement, in the decisive moment. Attachment to the past, whether glorious or painful, prevents you from being present. And if you're not present, you can't truly fight. You can't truly win, because the battle is happening now, and you're fighting ghosts on a battlefield that no longer exists. In the Book of Five Rings, Musashi writes about Heijoshin, the unperturbed mind. It's the ability to be completely in the moment, without carrying emotional baggage, without judgment, without inherited fears. It's the mind that sees clearly, because it's neither clouded by the past, nor anxious about the future. It's the mind of the awakened warrior. Eliminating attachment to the past doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning and letting go. It means extracting the lesson and letting go of the pain. It means honoring what was without dwelling on it. Because you are neither your past victories nor your past defeats. You are who you choose to be today, in this moment, with sword in hand and the path ahead. When you free yourself from the weight of the past, something extraordinary happens. You regain your lightness, your speed, your clarity. And you discover you're capable of much more than you imagined, because now you're not carrying the corpse of who you were, nor the ghosts of what didn't work out. You're just being, fighting, living. Musashi taught that a warrior's mind must be like water. Water doesn't cling. It flows, adapts, finds its way. It carries no memory of the stone that struck it, nor pride in the river it has crossed. It simply moves forward, ever new, ever present, ever alive. Be like water. Let the past flow, and focus all your strength on the present. Number 4, eliminate the illusion that there is only one way you're fighting with only one sword when you could use two. You're seeing the world from a single angle when there are infinite perspectives. You're stuck in one way of living, thinking, and solving problems, as if that were the only way possible. And this rigidity, this stubbornness, this refusal to adapt, is preventing you from winning battles that should already be won. Musashi created Niten Ichiryu, the two-sword style, not because he was stronger than others, but because he was more flexible. While everyone followed the tradition of a single longsword, he realized there was power in breaking the mold. There was advantage in doing what no one expected. There was freedom in not being bound by a single form. But this lesson goes beyond swords. It's about adaptability, creativity, and the courage to abandon what doesn't work and experiment with the unknown. How many times have you stuck with a strategy that clearly wasn't working? How many times have you repeated the same mistakes expecting different results? How many times have you refused to change because you were afraid of appearing inconsistent? You live in a world that values specialization too much and versatility too little. You were taught to choose a path and follow it to the end, even if it leads you to the precipice. You were told to be faithful to a single form, a single identity, a single way of being. But Musashi knew rigidity is weakness, adaptability is strength. He wrote, "You must study widely and experience many things. When you are not tied to one form, you can adapt to any situation." This is not about being superficial or fickle. It's about being well-rounded. It's about having multiple tools, multiple perspectives, multiple possibilities. It's about not relying on a single strategy to face life's complexity. Think about how many opportunities you've missed by refusing to step out of your comfort zone. How many relationships failed because you only knew how to love one way? How many projects died because you only knew one way to execute? How many doors remained closed because you only had one key? The illusion of a single path is comforting. It gives you the feeling of having a solid identity, of knowing who you are, of having a place in the world. But this security is false. The world changes, circumstances change, you change. And if you are stuck in a single way, change will break you. But if you are fluid, flexible, and adaptable, you survive. More than that, you thrive. Musashi wasn't just a swordsman. He was a painter, calligrapher, writer, strategist, and philosopher. He mastered multiple arts because he understood that each one fed the others. The same discipline he applied to the sword, he applied to the brush. The same focus he had in dueling, he applied to meditation. He didn't see himself as a limited specialist, but as a complete human being seeking mastery in multiple dimensions. Eliminating the illusion of a single path requires humility. It requires recognizing that you don't know everything, that your way isn't the only way, that there may be better, more efficient ways, more aligned with who you're becoming. And it requires courage. Courage to experiment, courage to fail, courage to start over in a completely different way. When you embrace the multiplicity of paths, you become unstoppable. Because if one door closes, you have other keys. If one strategy fails, you have other approaches. If one path is blocked, you find another. You are not defined by a single form. You are the sum of all your possibilities. So stop fighting with just one sword. Pick up another. Learn new forms. Explore different perspectives. Experience the unknown. And discover that you are far more capable, far more versatile, far more powerful than you ever imagined. Because a true warrior isn't one who masters a single technique. It's one who can adapt to any battle. Number 5. Eliminate the pursuit of perfection before action. There's a stark difference between preparation and procrastination disguised as perfectionism. You say you're preparing, but you're actually hiding. You say you want to be ready, but you'll never feel ready enough. You strive for perfection before you begin, but perfection only comes after facing 1,000 imperfections. Musashi wasn't born a master. His first duel was brutal, inelegant, almost improvised. He won not through impeccable technique, but through sheer determination. And it was this first imperfect victory that paved the way for all the others. Because he understood something you still struggle to accept. Mastery doesn't come before practice. It comes through it. You expect to have the perfect body before you start training. You expect to have all the skills before you pursue an opportunity. You expect to feel complete confidence before you take the first step. But everything is backward. The body transforms through training. Skills are developed through doing. Confidence is born from experience, and experience only comes when you take action, even if imperfect, even if insecure, even if afraid. Perfectionism is one of fear's most sophisticated masks. It looks like virtue, it looks like care, it looks like excellence, but it's just fear of being judged, fear of failing, fear of showing that you're not as good as you'd like to be. So you postpone, you refine, you prepare some more. And meanwhile, time passes, opportunities disappear, and you remain in the same place, carrying potential that never translates into fulfillment. In the Book of Five Rings, Musashi talks about the importance of timing, the sense of opportunity. There are moments that demand immediate action. There are openings that close quickly. And if you're too busy searching for the perfect move, you miss the right moment to execute the possible move. And in battle, The possible move executed at the right time is infinitely more valuable than the perfect move that never happens. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a viable plan and the courage to execute it. You don't need to eliminate all risks. You need to learn to navigate them. You don't need to have all the answers. You need clarity about your direction and the willingness to adjust as you go. The pursuit of perfection paralyzes you because it creates an unattainable standard. And while you chase this phantom, you fail to do what's possible, what's real, what's within your reach. You want to write the perfect book, so you don't. You want to create the perfect business, so you don't start. You want to have the perfect relationship, so you don't open up. And so, in the name of an impossible ideal, you build an empty life. Musashi perfected his technique through decades of practice and combat. He didn't start out perfect. He ended up a master. And he ended up a master because he started out imperfect, but willing to learn, to make mistakes, to adjust, to evolve. Each duel was a lesson. Each victory, a stepping stone. Each challenge, an opportunity for refinement. But none of this would have been possible if he had waited to be perfect before facing his first opponent. Eliminating this pursuit of perfection doesn't mean accepting mediocrity. It means understanding that excellence is a process, not a starting point. It means acknowledging that you will make mistakes, and that's okay. It means embracing the discomfort of being seen as a beginner, as imperfect, as someone who is still learning. Because that's exactly who you are. And that's not shame, it's honesty. So begin. Start poorly. Start clumsily. Start without having everything ready. But begin. Because with every step you take, even if it's crooked, you learn something no amount of planning could teach you. And with time, with repetition, with a commitment to improving with each attempt, you'll approach mastery. Not through perfection, but through persistence. Not through innate talent, but through constant refinement. Number 6, eliminate dependence on the approval of teachers and the applause of the audience. There's a difference between respect and submission, between learning from masters and becoming a slave to their opinions. You seek knowledge, but along the way, you lose your own voice. You admire the great, but forget that you can be great too. You wait for external validation before believing in yourself, but that validation will never be enough until you validate yourself first. Musashi learned from masters, studied ancient techniques, and absorbed traditions. But there came a time when he realized, to become truly free, he needed to break with tradition. He needed to create his own style. He needed to trust his experience, his intuition, his unique path. And it was this rupture that transformed him from a good swordsman into an immortal legend. You're always seeking permission. Permission to be different. Permission to think differently. Permission to follow a path no one understands. And while you wait for someone to tell you you're right, capable, and worthy, you fade away. Because the truth is, no one will give you that permission. You have to take it for yourself. How many ideas have you shelved because someone said they wouldn't work? How many dreams have you abandoned because you didn't receive the support you expected? How many times have you changed direction, not because your intuition told you to, but because you feared others' judgment? You've handed the helm of your life to people who aren't even sailing the same ocean as you. Musashi wrote, "Respect the gods and Buddhas, but do not depend on them." This applies to everything. Respect your teachers, but do not depend on their approval. Admire the great, but do not live in their shadow. Learn from the wise, but do not surrender your decision-making power. Because no teacher, no matter how enlightened, can walk for you. No guru can live your life. No external validation can replace your inner conviction. Dependence on approval makes you predictable, limited, and trapped. You stop exploring unknown territories because they're not on the maps you've been given. You stop asking uncomfortable questions because they might displease those you admire. You stop experimenting because failure would be interpreted as disobedience or ingratitude. And so, in the name of loyalty to your masters, you betray yourself. There's also the audience's applause. This need to be recognized, admired, celebrated. You post, you share, you wait for the reactions, and your value fluctuates according to the numbers. More likes, more value, less engagement, less importance. And without realizing it, You've turned your life into a spectacle for others to consume. You've stopped living for yourself and started living for the audience. Musashi fought his duels without an audience. Many of his most important victories took place in remote locations, without witnesses, without immediate recognition. He didn't strive for fame. He strived for mastery. He didn't seek applause. He sought excellence. And it was precisely this emotional independence that made him unbeatable. Because when you don't have to prove anything to anyone, you fight with a freedom that dependence will never know. Eliminating this dependence is painful, because you'll lose people. You'll disappoint teachers who expected you to follow their path. You'll lose followers who were only there for the performance version of you. But what you gain is infinitely greater. You gain your autonomy, your authenticity, your power. So learn from everyone, but bow to no one. Respect traditions, but don't be a prisoner of them. Listen to advice, but trust your intuition. And understand, the recognition that truly matters doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. It's that moment when you look in the mirror and know, without needing any external confirmation, that you are walking your path, fighting your battles, living your truth. And that, warrior, no one can take away from you. Number 7, eliminate overthinking and cultivate an empty mind. There's a silent war going on inside your head. Thoughts that clash, voices that won't shut up, scenarios that multiply, worries that feed on other worries, and you're so immersed in this mental turmoil that you've lost the ability to be present. You've lost clarity. You've lost the spontaneous action that arises from inner silence. Musashi spoke of mushin, the empty mind, not empty of knowledge, but empty of noise, not absent, but fully present. It is the state where there is no internal dialogue hindering movement. There is no doubt paralyzing action. There is no fear anticipating failure. There is only the now, the opponent, the sword, the movement. There is only the essential. You live in the opposite of this. Your mind is a chaotic marketplace where 1,000 vendors shout at once. Thoughts about the past that won't change. Worries about the future that hasn't arrived. Judgments about yourself. Interpretations about others. Plans that fall apart before they can be executed. And in this mental chaos, you lose yourself. You can't listen to your intuition. You can't act fluidly. You can't simply be. Overthinking is not a sign of intelligence. It's a sign of disconnection. When you're truly connected to the moment, unnecessary thinking ceases. You don't need to plan every step because your body already knows what to do. You don't need to analyze every possibility because your intuition has already chosen the path. You don't need to convince yourself because there's already certainty, but you've been trained to overthink. You've been told the solution lies in the mind, in reasoning, in logical analysis, and that has its place. But they forgot to teach you that there's a kind of wisdom that doesn't come from thought. It comes from silence. It comes from pure perception. It comes from the mind that observes without judging, that acts without hesitation, that responds without calculation. Musashi trained not only in technique, but also in mental emptying. He meditated. He contemplated nature. He painted with an empty mind, allowing the brush to move on its own. And it was from this practice of emptying that his mastery of combat was born. Because in a life or death duel, there's no time to think. There's only time to be. The swordsman who hesitates, who overcalculates, who tries to predict his opponent's every move, loses. Because while he's in his head, the other is in action. While he plans the third move, the opponent has already executed the first and won. You carry this same problem in your daily life. You spend so much time thinking about doing things that you forget to simply do them. You rehearse conversations that never happen. You plan projects that never start. You create strategies that never execute. And all of this because your mind can't shut up. It can't trust. It can't simply let life flow through you. Overthinking also creates unnecessary suffering. You grieve over things that never happened. You create imaginary tragedies. You anticipate rejections that will never come, and you torture yourself with scenarios that exist only in your head. Seneca, the Stoic, said something Musashi experienced: We suffer more in imagination than in reality, and you're spending your life fighting mental ghosts instead of living. Eliminating overthinking doesn't mean stopping thinking. It means thinking when necessary and emptying when possible. It means creating moments of deliberate inner silence. It means training your mind to be still, to observe without commenting, to be present without analyzing. It's a practice, like any other. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Start simple. Set aside moments during the day to just be. No cell phone, no stimuli, no distractions. Just you, your breath, the present moment. Observe your thoughts as they come, but don't engage with them. Let them pass by like clouds in the sky. You are not your thoughts. You are the space where they occur, and that space can be full or empty. The choice is yours. When you cultivate an empty mind, something extraordinary happens. You begin to act with a fluidity you've never experienced before. Your responses become faster, more precise, more aligned. You stop sabotaging yourself with doubts. You stop paralyzing yourself with analysis, and you discover that you already know what to do. You always have. You just needed to remove the noise from the way. Musashi reached the end of his life having won every duel, not because he outthought his opponents, but because he overthought them. His mind was like a still lake. It perfectly reflected reality. And because it reflected perfectly, it responded perfectly. This is the mastery you seek. And it doesn't lie in adding more thoughts. It lies in subtracting unnecessary ones until only clarity remains. Number 8. Eliminate the refusal to face your own death. You live as if you were immortal. You postpone the essential, prioritize the trivial, waste time as if you had an infinite reserve. But you don't. Every second that passes is a second that will never return. Every wasted day is a day lost forever. And you know this, but act as if you don't. You act as if death were a distant event, something that happens to others but never to you. Musashi had a brutal daily practice. He meditated on his own death, not out of morbidity, but out of lucidity. He would wake up and ask himself, if I died today, would I be satisfied with my experience yesterday? This question didn't depress him. It liberated him. Because when you live with the awareness of death, every moment takes on weight. Every choice becomes meaningful. Every action needs purpose. You avoid thinking about death. You look away when the topic comes up. You change the subject when someone brings it up. But this refusal doesn't protect you. It weakens you. Because when you don't face impermanence, you live on autopilot. You put off what you should do today. You treat temporary relationships as eternal. And you miss opportunities that will never return. In the Hagakure, the samurai code, it is written, "The way of the samurai is meditation on death. By keeping death in mind day and night, you will attain true freedom on the path." Musashi embodied this teaching. Every duel was potentially his last. Every day, a gift. Every breath, a present. And it was this acute awareness of mortality that made him live with an intensity few know. When you face death not as an enemy but as a teacher, everything changes. You stop wasting energy on the irrelevant. You stop saving important words for later. You stop postponing hugs, conversations, declarations. Because you know, maybe there's no other time. Maybe this is the last. And if so, you want to be sure you've lived truthfully. Death isn't just the end of the body. There are many deaths in life. The death of who you were. The death of relationships that no longer serve you. The death of dreams that no longer make sense. The death of old versions of yourself. And you resist these deaths as if they were tragedies, but they are liberations. Because only through the death of the old can the new be born. Musashi wrote the Book of Five Rings at the age of 60, knowing he was nearing the end. He did so not with sadness, but with serenity. Because he had lived fully. He had faced what he had to face. He had loved, fought, created, taught. He left nothing unsaid. He left nothing undone. When death came, he was ready. Not because he wanted to die, but because he had truly lived. Are you ready? If death knocked on your door today, Would you be proud of what you've built? The relationships you've cultivated? The words you said or didn't say? Or would you be filled with regrets, with should-haves, with would-haves? This answer tells you everything about how you're living. Eliminating the refusal to face death is embracing the urgency of life. Not an anxious urgency, but a conscious urgency. It's waking up and knowing that this day matters, that these people matter, that this moment is all you have for sure. Everything else is possibility, not promise. And when you live with this awareness, you live differently. You live better. You truly live. Do the exercise Musashi did. Before going to sleep, ask yourself, if I died tomorrow, would I be at peace with what I experienced today? If the answer is no, you know what needs to change. And don't put it off, because later may not exist. Do it now. Say it now. Love it now. Live it now, as if each day were both your first and your last, because in a way, it is. Musashi died in a cave, in silence, in peace, alone, but not lonely. He died with the certainty of having fulfilled his path, of having been whole, of having lived as a warrior lives, with honor, with purpose, with truth. And this is the greatest victory anyone can achieve. Not over external enemies, but over impermanence itself. To live in such a way that when death comes, you can look it in the eye and say, "Thank you. I lived well." Conclusion. I sincerely hope this message was helpful. I want to sincerely congratulate you for making it this far and completing the video. This means you want to improve as a person. If you enjoyed the video, leave a comment. If you don't know what to comment, comment Warrior's Path. That way, I'll know you watched it all the way through. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Subscribe now and join us. Miyamoto Musashi's philosophy is full of teachings like this that are applicable to our daily lives. Therefore, I encourage you to continue learning about this warrior's path. Here are 2 videos filled with Musashi's wisdom to keep you learning. Until next time, warrior.